it's Romy. Welcome to my channel, Tarot Card Review. I'm a professional tarot reader and intuitive guide, and today I have the pleasure of reviewing the Painted Tarot by Sophie Mckay Knight. So all views expressed in this video are my own. There hasn't been any sponsorship. That said, I do know Sophie personally, and it has really been a pleasure to watch the creation of this deck and see it finally printed and having the opportunity to review and actually work with it. So Sophie is a professional artist, and all of the cards within the Painted Tarot actually originated from full-scale paintings. Sophie's a figurative painter, and she uses acrylic and mixed media. So I think it's giving it such an unusual, unique perspective. Now, the box that the actual deck arrives in, the Painted Tarot, is a cardboard flip box. And you can see that Sophie's actually chosen to depict the image of the Fool from the Major Arcana on the front cover here. And what I really like is she's actually chosen to use that as a wraparound for the deck itself. So it gives you a fantastic indication of her style and what to expect in terms of the colour, the vibrancy, and, you know, just the overall feel. So on the back we do have information about the website, Sophie Mckay Knight, and the social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Currently this deck is available via Sophie's website and her Etsy shop at a cost of £44.95, and I believe that she is shipping internationally. So the box itself on the lid here also has a pentacle or a coin with a little nod to what is featured on the cards themselves. Inside the box we have a small leaflet, and contained within this is a little bit more information about the artist and really her source of inspiration. So Sophie grew up with a family background that was sort of rooted in astrology, the tarot and runes, and obviously her own spirituality and journey and her belief system has fused with that professional art career to create something that's really unique. And I think that the leaflet just gives a nice little nod and sort of invites us into her world. And she does talk about some of the inspiration that she's drawn for the particular images within the deck. There's also, again, more links on the back of this. Now, the deck doesn't include a guidebook to reference any descriptions or meanings. So if you are new to tarot and that's something that you would be looking for, just a awareness about that. She has based the Painted Tarot on the Rider-Waite, so there is a nod to that traditional symbolism that you can expect. So looking at the deck itself, I think the first thing to notice, which I really love, is that Sophie has chosen for the cover of the deck to be an image of the floor of her artist's studio. So what we're seeing here is the paint splashes that exist beneath her easel, where she has created lovingly this tarot deck. And I just think that's a beautiful way to kind of link her place of work, the fact that she is this professional artist and, you know, has created this tarot deck kind of lovingly and really lived and breathed every one of these cards and infused energy into them from all different sources of inspiration. And so I love the fact that this is represented here. So the card stock itself is a lovely, luxurious 350 GSM. Xanta Games board is the stock that she's used. And it has a really nice weighty feel. Very easy to shuffle and very nice to hold as you are shuffling. One of my bugbears is when you get these card decks that are very shiny and they tend to stick together a lot when you first get them. And, you know, we don't have that at all with the Painted Tarot. So it's a very nice experience to be able to shuffle with that. So the deck itself is borderless. Again, something else that I really enjoy in terms of being a reader, because where we have the opportunity to then place cards side by side when they're borderless, for me, it actually allows me to link the storytelling aspect of what the cards are telling me more easily. So the fact that it's borderless works really well. I would say it would be nice, I think, to have some kind of like gilded edge or some sort of edging around the card. That would be kind of one of the notes that I might feed back on that basis. But as we can see here, I've pulled out a major and a minor arcana. So the majors, she's chosen to actually note the description of which card it is, as well as the Roman numerals. And on the minors, we just have a nod to the number itself. Straight away, what you can see from Sophie's work and the way that she's chosen to depict the tarot, very unique to her style, but the colours are incredibly vibrant and, you know, they're really jumping off the page here. So what I love about this deck is the richness and the fact that actually she's chosen this really unique layering effect. And you'll see this more predominantly in some of the cards, and really it's the more that you look, the more you begin to see. But you know, she's using sort of printing to kind of build up layers and textures, and obviously, you know, when we're reprinting from full scale paintings, you're never going to get a full appreciation of the detail, but I think she's managed to capture that in terms of the transition incredibly well. So one of the things that I'd like to do just before I take you through all of the cards themselves is actually just to ask this deck what it would like us to know, right? I'm just going to ask the deck to give us a message because, you know, if you are working with the tarot and we understand that each deck really has its own personality and its own unique expression of energy. And I've already done a few readings with the Painted Tarot, and it has been a very direct expression of energy. It's been very punchy, and it's delivered real clarity in terms of my reading. So just asking the deck, you know, just for the collective here, what does it want us to know? What does it want to share with us? Okay, so the card of the World comes out. First of all, it's a major arcana, so we love that there's a nice, weighty, bold expression of energy. And for me, the card of the World just denotes this incredible sense of positivity, something very inclusive. So we're really reaching out to a broad spectrum of people who are going to be able to work with this deck in a very unique way. I love that this talks about the journey. It's really a nod to the Fool's journey. And if we think about the fact that on the front of the box here we have the Fool, and then the card that the deck wants to deliver a message is the World. So we've got that kind of full expression of the journey. It's really going to take us on our own unique emotional journey. So yeah, I really love the boldness that that's delivering for us. So I'd just like to take you through each of the cards just so you can get a real appreciation for what Sophie has created here. Okay, so I'm just going to walk us through here. Card of the Sun, very vibrant, bold energy coming through. Immediately you can see that, you know, her style of this figurative painting coming through with, you know, such beautiful expressions within the cards themselves. The Devil is a card I particularly like in this deck. I find it so incredibly hypnotic. The green is so vibrant, but actually if you decide to work with this deck, and it's such a, you know, the Painted Tarot is, you know, incredible as a collector's, but honestly to work with it as well as a reader, it is very punchy. And, you know, the messages that come through for me are really clear. And the Devil particularly I just find is one of these energies that it just draws you in. It's almost like you can't tear your eyes away from it. So yeah, I think she's done an incredible job. And here we have the Hanged Man, and it's one of the things that Sophie talks about, that, you know, actually creating this deck and sort of living and breathing the energy of each one, you know, really had a profound effect on her, and that, you know, she would be working with these energies for days at a time sometimes. Again, the card of Death is, you know, really drawing you in. It's a really interesting depiction. And again, you can kind of see the layering that's kind of coming through in the way that she works. Sophie likes to use the depiction of these hummingbirds, and, you know, it's seen throughout the deck, and it's something that I particularly like to see. Again, Temperance is another card that I really enjoy the richness, the colour of this sort of azure blue, and we can see the kind of nod to the sort of water element coming through here. So Sophie's chosen, this is an interesting thing to note, that for the four kings, the King of Wands, King of Pentacles, King of Swords and King of Cups, they're actually in black and white as opposed to the rest of the deck, which is depicted in colour. I think this is really interesting because it definitely gives contrast, and you do pick up very strongly on the energy that's coming through from the facial expressions of these kings. I guess personally, I just enjoy the colour so much that I would also like to see these kings expressed in the same kind of colour vibrancy, if you like, and actually having a deck purely in black and white would probably be something else that I would really enjoy as well. But she has chosen to do that for the four kings, so it's kind of an interesting departure, and just gives again this deck something a little bit different. 5 of coins or pentacles here. Because I'm such a visual reader, I just really enjoy decks that have a lot of colour and a lot of detail, because there's just so much to see, and every time you read you're kind of tuning into a different aspect of what's being presented visually. Again, I think if you are, already a reader, or you have a number of decks, this is such a beautiful addition, because it's going to be very different to anything else that you may have. I think there's few decks out there that are actually originating from kind of full-scale paintings. So interesting 9 of Swords here. I mean, it is really showing that kind of stress and anxiety that comes forward with this energy, but again, the birds just, this nod to being able to free yourself from fears. So there's this nod to not kind of shying away from the intensity and the depth that you need from some of the deeper energies, but also just always showing a way through and a way out, and I really like that. Interestingly, with the Knights, what Sophie has advised is that these all began as square paintings, and so having to then make them work with the rectangle deck was a bit of a challenge for her, both the Knights and also I think the Wheel of Fortune. I think she's managed that really well, but again, you don't quite get the full appreciation of what the original would look like, from the transition into the tarot deck. The Lovers is another card that I particularly like from the Major Arcana with this one. You really get the sense of unity and bonding coming together here. The Star as well. Here's another one of the kings with the black and white depiction here, the King of Cups. 7 of Cups here, which I think does a really good interpretation of just giving you that very kind of hazy, nebulous, slightly overwhelmed by choices and what is being presented in terms of the energy. 3 of Swords here as well. I really love the particular depiction of this image of the 3. It's so bold against the black background as well. It's really jumping out. And I love, again, this kind of layering effect. So we're getting to see beneath the surface kind of what's been hidden, being kind of brought up and exposed. Wheel of Fortune here, as we talked about, this originating as a square painting. High Priestess is always a card that I look for in each deck. I know that if I resonate with the way that the creator, the artist, has depicted the High Priestess, there's a good chance I'm going to be able to bond with the deck. So for me, that's just one of the ones that I'm always looking for. And again, I really like the way that she's chosen to represent this. It's nice and bold with the colour choices. We still have the link to the temple here. And actually picking out the red, which for me kind of links into the pomegranate. And yeah, I really love the energy that she exudes. Pages here. So here is the version of the Fool. which, as we said, is represented on the front of the box. You can see it in its fullness here. Strength is another card that I really love. This beautiful mane of hair just kind of linking into the lion, and we have the symbolism here as well. But I love the vibrancy and the texture and the richness that comes forth from this one. Six of Swords here. I do miss the nod to kind of seeing some sort of water here, although you pick it up a little bit with the colour hues. And she has based this on the Rider-Waite, which I like because I tend to work more closely with decks that are representative of that. But it doesn't have quite as much of the symbolism as you would find in other decks. But there's so much more to appreciate from just her own very unique style, particularly like the Six of Cups here, that look of just total adoration that comes forth. Two of Cups, another one that's really beautiful. I think people that would enjoy this deck are definitely those who like to collect, and of course that have an appreciation for fine art, especially if you know Sophie's work already. But even if you're new to the tarot, I just think it gives you such a different perspective on how to work. I love her depiction of the Empress as well. Really beautiful. Love that bold orange. Lovely. The Alchemist, also known as the Magician. They're so different, each of the cards here. You know, she's really been able to capture its own unique essence. Again, this black and white King of Coins. This is another personal favourite of mine, the Nine of Coins, again with this vibrant yellow, this beautiful hummingbird. So you can just pick out the coins here, but there's just so many layers and little details to pick out as you connect more deeply into the card. Chariot, I love the vibrancy of that full moon in the background. The Tower is again a particularly strong depiction. Sophie's not shied away from really capturing the seismic shift and the destruction that the Tower can bring, and you know, the chaos, but at the same time that sense of liberation, of breaking free, of having that epiphany. You know, the crown falling here and the swords making up the actual building. I really love the way that she's interpreted the energy of that. It's very bold, but it's very powerful. Okay, so this is the Painted Tarot by Sophie Mckay Knight. Absolutely beautiful deck to work with and to have as part of your collection. And I hope you've appreciated just an insight into all of the cards. Thank you so much for tuning in. And you can find this particular deck at Sophie's website, sophiemckayknight.com. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye for now.